The New York Post has likened Gerald Celente to a modern-day Nostradamus. He has proven uncannily accurate with his predictions. Gerald is the founder of the Trends Research Institute and publisher of the Trends Journal, the world's #1 source for the most important trends that are shaping the future. Their website declares, "Our research distinguishes fact from fantasies, trends from fads, and assesses the new opportunities required to create the future." Gerald characterizes himself as a political atheist who sees things as they are and not the way I wish they would be. He predicts the implosion of the global economy worldwide. He says, "Our only hope is for Americans to return to the virtues of personal responsibility and hard work." He has visited with us before. Let's welcome back to the Global Freedom Report, Gerald Celente. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi recently announced the dismantling of the military and revocation of the military-declared constitutional amendment giving all power to the military. Some say it is a political move to garner more power. Others suggest Egypt is ripe for another military coup against Morsi's power grab. Meanwhile, in Syria, the U.S.-backed al-Qaeda terrorist rebels are seeking the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad and the installation of the ultra-radical Muslim Brotherhood. Throughout it all, a war between Israel, the U.S., and Iran seems imminent. Have you any opinions or predictions concerning the developing situation in the Middle East?
Well, let's first start with Egypt. They called it an Arab Spring, and they promoted the democracy that would happen from the election. And the reality of it is that the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Mohamed Morsi is the selected man that had run for president after their first candidate was disqualified and is now president, the Muslim Brotherhood virtually played no role in bringing about the precipitation of the revolution. And the people that put their lives on the line in the street and stay there for months, they have no place in the government. I mention that because of the great myth of what they call democracy. There isn't any, whether it's in the Middle East or in the West. You have power parties that control, and it's usually a choice between the lesser of two evils. And in the first round of elections in Egypt, only 46% of the eligible voters turned out, and just 51.6% voted in the runoff. So having said that, there's going to be, as we see it, a power play between the Muslim Brotherhood and the military. The military is not going to go away. More importantly, as we look at the whole picture in Egypt, it's going to have negative impact on their relationship with Israel over the years. And although the military had put in a constitutional act that disempowered the presidency just before his inauguration, and Morsi put it back into place and fired a number of the old guard generals and replaced them with new ones, as you keep reading into it, you don't know whether it was a power play or they're playing together. Having said that, there's going to be, as we see it, a long-term struggle between the Muslim Brotherhood and the military. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood are not Islamic fundamentalists as being portrayed. The Salafi are. They're not. As we go over to Syria, there's a civil war, as you well know, fomented by the Arab Little League. Those wonderful democracies over there pushing for democracy in Syria and an overthrow of the Assad government. You know, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Emir of Qatar, and the other Arab dictatorships. This is the height of hypocrisy. And then we go over to Israel. And now there's talk virtually every day about when, not if, Israel is going to launch an attack against Iran's nuclear facility, which the Iranians say is for peaceful purposes, and the United States, NATO, and Israel say it's for bomb-making purposes. Let's go to Yemen. Civil war going on over there, supported by the United States. They're concerned that it might spread over into the the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer. And then, of course, there's battles going on in Bahrain. The Saudis have also occupied Bahrain to prop up their emir over there. And, of course, the United States has the Fifth Fleet station there. Then you have troubles in Morocco, Tunisia that have not been solved and are getting worse. So the whole Middle East is really ready to explode right now. If Israel attacks Iran, it is going to set the Middle East aflame. Remember that old Bedouin saying, me against my brother and I against our cousin, my brother, my cousin, and I against our neighbor, and all of us against the foreigner. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to solidify the Middle East if Israel attacks Iran. And it's going to be the beginning of World War III.
All right, let's come a little bit closer to home. The U.S. presidential elections are the big news these days. Obama is seeking a second term while the presumptive Republican nominee, Mitt Romney, just selected his running mate, Congressman Paul Ryan. What are your thoughts on the GOP selection for vice president nominee, and what are your predictions as to how the election will pan out? Not just the presidency, but also in the House and Senate. Will the Republicans take back both houses of Congress? And what might be the future results if that happens?
First, on the selection of Ryan. We wrote a year ago in the Trends Journal, it's there for everyone to read. We even tweeted it. We did a piece on Ryan in the summer, a year ago in 2011, including his weenie mobile that he drove when he was in college for Oscar Mayer. Ryan's the kind of guy that was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. He never worked a day in his life. We have this all outlined. Because what we were doing was we were analyzing the presidential reality show a year ago. We saw it being put together in the early stages and predicted where it would lead. And we isolated Ryan because of him being the father of the tax cuts, Medicare, and the dismantling of Social Security and putting it into the hands of private institutions, plus a number of other things, the Ryan program. We pointed out that, as I mentioned, Ryan never worked a day in his life. Right out of college, virtually, he went to work for political hacks. People call them congressmen and senators. I have a more derisive name for them, but this is a family show, so I won't say it. So then we look at Ryan again. And I've said this many times, and I've been saying it over the years, that people don't recognize who politicians are. This is an adolescent show. These are the same people and you couldn't stand in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. And Ryan is right out of central casting. The former class president and voted by his classmates the brown noser of the year. Because that's who the class presidents and head of the student councils were. The suck-ups, the brown nosers, the glad-handers, the overly sincere, and the overly ambitious. This guy doesn't know anything about anything. A policy maker, a lawmaker, who made this crap up? This is a disgusting spectacle. And I could say the exact same thing for the Obama campaign. You look at the three guys there, out of the four, they've never worked a day in their lives. Romney is the only one, and he never worked really. He's a deal maker. That's all. He didn't create anything. He's a deal maker. A vulture capitalist. What was Obama? Yeah, a community organizer who organized nothing. Nothing in his credentials to qualify him. Biden, the consummate politician. A glad-hander. This is the presidential reality show. We said on October 3rd, 2011, we did a trend alert. We identified at that time who was leading in the Republican Party. Romney was one of them, Michelle Bachmann, and I think it was Rick Perry. We said that if any of these three are the leaders, Obama wins again. He'll play the role as the born-again populist, and that's what we're seeing. People are blowing up the Ryan thing way out of perspective. The vice president matters very little in voting for a presidential candidate, unless it happens to be an off-the-wall one like Sarah Palin. But then again, Sarah Palin and John Insane McCain, they kindly went together very well, like, Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. So absent of that, when the campaign begins and Romney is exposed as the vulture capitalist and Obama pretends to be the born-again populist, we believe that it all comes down in the presidential reality show as to who could read the teleprompter the best and act the best, and that's why we're picking Obama. What difference will it make? Very little. And I'm not voting for either. I will not be a part of this sham any longer. As all it is a criminal activity to me. Democrats and Republicans, Bananos, Gambinos, Lanskys, Dutch Schultz, it's a crime syndicate. And I won't have any part of it. How will it work out? Not much different. The only thing that worries me the most is, as much as I despise Romney, and you know, he talks about the wonderful jobs he created at Staples. Oh yeah, great. You know, making barely minimum wage, and you put out all those stationery stores out of business so you could consolidate all the power among your friends. Oh, wonderful. So having said that, now, yeah, I wouldn't walk across the street to say hello to either of them. I fear Obama more because he's slicker, and he convinces people that he really cares for them. And when I look at the actions of Obama since going into office, promising to close Guantanamo and not, the signing of the National Defense Authorization Act, the continuation of the Patriot Act, our wonderful Terror Tuesdays where they decide who they're going to kill extrajudicially with Predator drones. Not one head rolled on Wall Street from the Obama administration's Justice Department. He codified the respelling of the word justice to mean J-U-S-T-U-S, just us. They just gave their friend John the Slime Corzine a free ride, the former head of MF Global who robbed segregated funds, including mine, and they didn't even bring him up for questioning. And now they've announced that they're not going to even put criminal charges on any of them, and never have. So there's a fear I have about Obama that he's slick enough to lead the nation into a real slide in the form of robbing us more of our rights and turning it into even more of a fascist state than it is.
Do you think the Republicans will get back the Senate and have both houses? In a second Obama regime, do you think that that would make any kind of a difference?
No, it won't make any difference. It won't make any difference. It's a two-headed one-party system. As I said, it's corruption from the top to the bottom. Why can't people understand who these people are? What does it take? Why is it that adults cannot see through this great charade of the Republicans and the Democrats? What is it where people that are otherwise functioning adults, people who actually went to school, had an education, could drive a car, tie their shoes, earn a living, raise a family, actually be so gullible as to believe that their electoral choice actually has the best interests at heart and cares about them? It's no mystery about who these people are. There's no hidden secrets. They're featured prominently by the media.
It may be that it is because they went to public school that that's how they have become. The U.S. is mired in what I call the Second Great Depression, even though official economic statistics claim we are in a recovery. There has been much talk about the impending collapse of the U.S. dollar. Unemployment is officially over 8% according to massaged government statistics, and actually closer to 23% when you include the number of work-capable people who are out of work. What do you see happening with the U.S. economy the rest of this year and into 2013, regardless of who becomes president? And do you foresee a collapse of the U.S. dollar, and if so, when will it happen?
On the collapse of the U.S. dollar, it's a global collapse. So will the U.S. dollar collapse? It's difficult to say because the euro is collapsing. And we're going to know more about the euro collapse on September 12th when the German Supreme Court rules whether or not it's constitutional for Germany to be any part of all of these bailout schemes and mechanisms and pacts that are in place that are taking their money and giving it to bail out the eurozone, and whether or not the German government itself and its banking system will be taken over by Brussels. If they rule against that, it could be the end of the euro in a week or days. So the dollar, as troubled as it is, to me, jumping out of the euro and into the dollar is the equivalent of jumping out of the Lusitania and onto the Titanic. They're both very volatile and they're both sinking. which is why I believe in gold. And again, that is not investment advice. That is my belief. So where is the U.S. economy going? It's where the world economy is going. Look at the numbers coming out of China. Their exports are virtually flat. Their imports are only up 4.7%. They're dumping money into it, trying to keep the economy going. Brazil just announced a $66 billion real boost, or dollar boost, I should say, in stimulus, as their real is going down the toilet, along with the Indian rupee. It's a global collapse. It's inevitable. There's no such thing as perpetual growth. It's inorganic. You don't harvest in the winter. You don't harvest in the fall as much as you do in the summer. So what I'm saying is it's a global collapse. And what they're doing, as they always do, when all else fails, they lead you to war. Look how easy Obama took America into war against Libya. He made it a 2-bit appearance in Annapolis or somewhere, told the people it was a humanitarian mission, jumped on a plane with his wife, kids, and mother-in-law, and hit the road for Rio. And not even a peep from the prostitutes of the people. They're taking us to war. It's the same scenario that's being replayed. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War II. You call it the Second Great Depression. I've been calling it the Greatest Depression. Currency wars, I mentioned them already, some of them, with the real, with the rupee, with the yuan, and others. Trade wars are heating up. World war is unfolding in front of our eyes. And the people believe the presidential reality show. They actually argue and fight that their freak is better than your freak.
You mentioned the German Supreme Court ruling that is coming. There's been some talk about Germany actually pulling out of the EU and the euro. What do you think is going to happen with that ruling? Do you think that the court will come out and just rule according to the law, or do you think they'll look at the politics and the economics and rule according to that? What do you envision come next month in Europe?
I think they're going to try to do something. They're not going to rule according to the letter of the law, would be my guess, and it's only a guess. Who knows? But I think they'll do something to salvage it. And if they do, you may buy another year or even 2 out of the Eurozone, particularly if they put together a bond buying scheme.
So you think that with Greece and Spain and Portugal and Ireland kind of barely holding on, they could keep it going for that long, a year or 2 years?
Well, they could keep the financial end of it going. They're not going to solve the problems. Unemployment will continue to skyrocket. Hey, how about those wonderful riots in France the other day that nobody's talking about? How about the millions of indignados taking to the streets in Spain? How about the riots in Greece that continue to go on? So no, they're not going to solve the fundamentals, but they'll keep the Ponzi scheme going. That's what it's all about to money junkies. That's all they're concerned with, like any junkie. Heroin junkie, somebody cooked on coke, or a money junkie. Same thing. All they want to do is get their fix. They don't care who suffers for it. They'll rob from their mother, and that's what they'll do. They don't care. They don't care what the consequences are, as long as the money junkies get their fix. No, it's not about fixing the system. It's about the fix for the junkies. And if the Euro bond scheme is put together, it's a money junkie fix.
What do you think is going to happen to the value of gold, say, over the next 5 years? It seems as if the value of gold and silver have been held down of late. They've kind of just been sitting in a trough, not going anywhere. How do you envision gold and silver over, say, the next 5 years?
I'm bullish on gold. I'm the guy that called the beginning of the gold bull run. It's in print on our trendsjournal.com forecast page in 2001 when it was $275 an ounce. I said it was the beginning of the gold bull run. Long term, I'm bullish on it. I believe in all my heart it will go over 2,000. I don't put a higher number on it because I think they'll try to regulate it. The game is rigged. You're seeing it with the high-frequency trading. You're seeing it with the LIBOR scandals. And they don't want gold prices to go higher because that shows how worthless the digital money is. That's not worth the paper it's not printed on. So I believe they're rigging the game so they can make it seem as though the currencies are worth more or something when they're worth virtually nothing.
We've been speaking with Gerald Celente, founder of the Trends Research Institute and publisher of the Trends Journal. For more information, go to www.trendsresearch.com. Gerald, thank you so much for being with us today. and God bless you on your continuing work. Gerald Celente, www.trendsresearch.com